Hi, everyone. From me, Brent Graham of Good for the Game. Thursday night at 9 o'clock. It's time for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. We are giving YouTube another go. A couple of my warnings have sort of expired, so I've got another life there. So going out on that. A reminder that if you're not on the Good for the Game newsletter, make sure you get that every Friday or Saturday. There's a link in the description box down below. Right, let's bring you in, and we've got two guests tonight, and I've got the second guest who's just arrived. And he's always spot on time, and it's welcome. I'm going to start with him, in fact. It's welcome to the Mossman, Nathan Mossman. Nathan, how are you, mate? How are things in New Zealand?
You timed that well. I had no audio until about 1 second before you started talking. So
brilliant.
So that could have been an awkward introduction, but you're such a professional. You timed it perfectly.
Brilliant. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, looking forward to chatting with you. Let me introduce the other guest then, who's going to pop off for the first part of the show while we talk a bit of NPC. But he did want to say hello to you, and it's the Oracle down there in Cape Town. Oracle, welcome, mate.
Yeah, thanks. I'm impressed. Mossman's piano is still looking as stellar as it did a year ago and 2 years ago.
Yeah, it hasn't been played much.
Hasn't been played much at all, I can imagine. So, yeah, Gav, I mean, first of all, just quickly, I'm coming to you. Joburg is probably our coldest weekend of the year. How are things down in Cape Town there weather-wise?
On Wednesday, I was wearing a golf shirt the whole day, and for the last 2 days, I've been wearing this thick jacket. I was in a minus today, and my gosh, proper bad weather coming through. I left home at 6 o'clock in the morning, got there at 8. I drove completely in the dark, and heavy rain and puddles everywhere. It's cold. It's definitely cold. But apparently it's nice tomorrow, and tomorrow's the pole derby. They were talking about it on the radio today. 25 to 30,000 people at a school game. That's crazy. I haven't been to one, but I've heard about it. The whole town basically stops. So, yeah, pole boys. Pole, I don't know. One of them's unbeaten this year. So tomorrow should be quite interesting. I don't know if it's on TV.
Certainly.
Probably is.
It probably will be on channel 216 of Supersport. Just to mention, we are going out on, I did say right at the start, we're going out on YouTube. We'll hold thumbs at it at last, but good to see a few familiar names there. Mark Dunphy, 2M System says we're freezing our dingles off here in Josie, and I can tell he's 100% right. But Gav, you're more than welcome to stay in the studio or pop out or whatever. I'll remove you if you're going to be moving away, and we'll bring you back to the live.
I just want to say one more thing about the cold weather. So I don't know about Mossman in New Zealand, but I can tell you, Brenton, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me. When I lived in Joburg as a youngster, we went and washed our hands. We had to put the warm water on at the tap because the cold water was too cold. But in Cape Town, I'm able to wash my hands on the cold water. I don't need to. It's not cold that you can't wash your hands with it in a basin. I'm talking about. It's definitely not as cold as Joburg. Joburg winters were far worse. I remember having to put water on my windscreen in the morning just to clear the ice off the windscreen. This place, you don't get anything like that. So Cape Town people are moaning, but it's not as cold as Joburg. You want cold, go to Joburg. Or go to where Mossman is, where the windows are probably iced completely in the mornings. If left out.
But I can tell you, Mossman,
not in Auckland.
I'm just happy Oracle washes his hands, quite frankly. That was news to me.
That's your main takeaway. Yeah.
Excellent. But,
you got that. Well done.
And Nathan, how's the weather there in New Zealand?
In the background, and I'll come on when he's finished.
Excellent. I'll just remove you from the studio. Yeah, shot, Gav. And Nathan, very quickly, weather there and out your way at the moment?
Oh, just ridiculous amounts of rain that we've had.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not it's not a particularly cold part of the world most of the time, but yeah, it's been extremely rainy.
Well, Mark Dunphy asking the temperature. I must tell you, Mark, even though it's hell of a cold here in Joburg, the days are beautiful and sunny. It probably gets at mid-teens, and you'll see that when we talk Currie Cup a little bit later. But yeah, just not even freezing levels. So I think compared to what you can see in Ireland, it's probably nothing. And Steph just making the point about the wet there. But Nathan, we've got. I wanted to get you on first to talk before we chat at the Lions and we bring Oracle back to talk a bit of NPC, because of course that starts this week, and I know a lot of South Africans love it. I did see some tweets this afternoon suggesting that it's not on SuperSport, but of course the boys stream it and they make a plan. We've already had one big high-scoring game this morning, but this competition, is it one of your favorites as far as betting and watching go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, I mean, for me, it's my betting journey, if you want to call it that, kind of started with NPC. I think it was 2022 where I first started taking it seriously. So yeah, so I've got a real soft spot for the NPC, both from a betting and a watching perspective. So yeah, it was kind of where the journey all started for me. And yeah, and speaking of journey, I know take an opportunity to do a bit of self promotion, but my DM's always open if anyone's looking for betting partnerships. So anyone who's got accounts, especially accounts that you can bet big into, hit me up on Twitter.
Excellent. No coincidence. I think what's the New Zealand regulations that are changing there, Nathan, looking to spread his wings a bit, and I don't blame him for a second. Well, let's get into the action there. The first game we've got, obviously, this is now Friday morning. Manawatu plus 9.5 against North Harbour, and we've got a points line here of 64.5. Nathan, what are your thoughts on this first game?
Yeah, well, it's good that Oracle's here, because I'm going to channel my inner Oracle, and I'm going to say that Manawatu win this game.
Right, wrong favourite.
which is a very Oracle-like thing to say, and that might be slightly exaggerating, but not by much. I actually do make this basically a coin flip, and I think I think it's interesting in the first round. I think just people trying to price this up in general, and I think that maybe this is one that I think it's just kind of slipped under people's radar. They might be thinking of possibly some of the teams of past years, especially from the North Harbour perspective. And I think, yeah, I genuinely think that Manawatu can win this game.
Right, so nice, either solid strike on the 9.5, or perhaps even the board there. I see almost 33-10, over 3-1 on Manawatu there for the win. Mark was just asking, do the All Black players play in the NPC? And I see Stefan has come in and said some of them get released, but not all. Anything to add to that, Nathan?
No, that's right.
100%.
Like I think some of the fringe players that needed more game time, possibly the ones that just sort of featured off the bench. So Ruben Love, for instance, for Wellington, who just played one test, and then Brodie McAllister, for example, for another. There's another couple of guys that I think it's probably maybe 8 or so that didn't feature heavily that are
right.
But I think the other thing that's actually great about NPC that we're seeing is kind of the return of some big names of the past, that are just sort of popping up, and there's one in this game. So Lau Mapi, who will be playing for Manawatu, yeah, who's obviously been away and plied his trade in other parts of the world, and is now back here doing that. And it was the same last night, right? We were watching Aaron Cruden and Lima Sapawanga kind of running around. It's great to have some of these really experienced, former kind of big names back, and then mixing it up with the kids that are coming through. Because I think that is good for rugby just in general, from a New Zealand perspective anyway. Like to have the the wise old heads for some of the younger guys to learn off.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I didn't see this game, but what was it, 36-35 to Waikato, somewhere around there? Must have been an absolute crazy game. And yeah, as you say, some really well-known names on the park, but also some very good up-and-coming as well. So nice, a solid, confident play there early on the show. Wellington minus 2.5 against Canterbury. I only have points lines for the first game, by the way, guys. I think that because the rest of the games, I think, are on Saturday, and we'll get them probably Friday night South African time. So Wellington minus 2.5 here, Nathan.
Yeah, I'm probably going to think about this one a bit more, but I'm definitely leaning Wellington at this point. I think, yeah, I mean, they've probably been, arguably the best, or maybe not even arguably best of team over the last sort of 3 years. Won it 2 out of 3. Mm-hmm. Canterbury, I think they look better, but they weren't great last year. And yeah, I think Wellington probably got enough to cover that one.
All right, let's move on to Southland up against Otago. I don't follow a lot of NPC, but I very seldom see Southland priced as favourites, and I see the underdogs here plus 6.5 against Otago.
Yeah, so this is the Southern Derby. So this is the two bottom unions in New Zealand battling it out. So it's always a grudge match. They'll get a good crowd in Invercargill for this one, and I mean, I love a home underdog, and I do make the lines sort of around 5. So if I was looking anywhere, I would look to Southland. And they'll be up for this. They always are.
Well, just to backtrack a bit, comments obviously coming a little bit later. Fareed likes Canterbury. Stefan likes the minus. I think he might also have been talking about Wellington there. And Fareed is going for Otago. Right, let's move on to the next game. What have we got? Taranaki minus 15.5 against Northland, Nathan.
I mean, sorry, that's just an interesting comment, though, right? To say that they're taking their form, presumably, from the Crusaders into the NPC. Well, Crusaders have won it like 7 out of 8 years or some ridiculous thing, and they didn't take that form in any of those other years. So I don't know why this year would be different, but hey, there you go.
Yeah, the beauty of punting, of course, we all got different opinions there. Taranaki minus 15.5, Nathan.
Yeah, Taranaki are a really good team. They've kind of been there or thereabouts. They won it year before last. I thought they were really good last year as well, and kind of a bit surprised they didn't sort of make it a little bit further deeper into the comp. So yeah, I think this has probably got some potential for a blowout, although Northland are pretty stoic. They're quite a good defensive team, or have been over the last few years. So yeah, a little bit of caution, but I'd look towards Taranaki.
Right. Well, Fareed is giving you the thumbs up there. He's also heading towards Taranaki there. Right. Let me scroll down. Bay of Plenty plus 1.5 against Tasman.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one, and it's one of these ones where you look at the Tasman lineup and think that it's lights out good, and it is. Like, it's their backline is amazing, and still got Lester Fianuku to come back, so it's only going to improve. But Bay of Plenty they're just like a constantly kind of underrated team. They're a good kind of solid forward pack, and then the back line is basically just packed full of sevens players, because the New Zealand sevens team is based at Mount Maunganui, that's basically where the Tauranga, where the headquarters are for Bay of Plenty. So they have this back line that's full of these sevens players, and there's a lot of Super Rugby experience in there now. So yeah, I think the thing that was interesting is I kind of expected that Tasman line would move out further, but it hasn't. If anything, I think it might have come back a little bit. I think it's one point it was, I think it opened at sort of 3.5. So to get to 1.5, there is some money coming for the Bay, which is, I think, in my opinion, that's kind of sharper money. Like, it's not people that are necessarily just looking at team sheets and going, oh, I know these names, I'm going to back this team. And I think, in general, I kind of respect some of that money a bit more. So I think that this is probably a coin flip game as well. And in a coin flip scenario, like, I'd probably take the home underdog, but it's probably the one that I would stay away from, I think.
Right, be careful of that game. Final NPC game in Oracle. If you are listening, you can switch your camera back on. We'll bring you in soon to talk British and Irish Lions. We've got Hawke's Bay minus 10. I'm assuming there's meant to be a 0.5 there when I was typing that up, against Counties Manukau.
Yeah, interesting one. I didn't think Hawke's Bay were particularly good last year. They've had some big signings, or reasonably big signings. They've got Miracle Whailangi, who's coming in from what was a standout campaign for Moana. Zan Sullivan, I think, has come in from Auckland. But I still think that, again, talking about underrated teams, that Counties have probably fall into that category. I think that they could easily get blown out here in an away game like this, but just on sort of balance of probabilities, I would lean towards Counties.
Counties on the handicap there. So if you had to summarize your best play, would it be going to the top game, Nathan, with a plus 9.5 or the board bet there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I think that's going to be my bet of the weekend, I think. Right,
excellent. Well, let's move on to the Lions, and we'll bring Oracle in now. So before we get into this game, Oracle, last week, dramatic ending to the second test. I mean, I was on Australia plus, and I was also on Australia overs points, which actually arrived quite early. But for me, I just really wanted Australia to win that game to set up a decider in the series. And what we got now, of course, is the British and Lions have won the series. They're 2-0 up, and they'll be looking for the 3-0 sweep Any thoughts on last week's game, that final decision? Have you had a look at it? I know you're not one to really harp on those type of things, but any thoughts on that and how you did on the game?
Yeah, no, I went for the minus, but I backed in running. I think my bet was at halftime. I took -2, so ended up winning by the half point.
Okay.
Half, whatever. Got my stake back. I didn't lose on that game. Yeah, it was. I was thinking of Henrik actually, because he liked them to win. But I suppose if he was clever, and he is clever, he would have covered something during the game because he had plenty of time to get out. So anyone who backed Australia would have got out. Had plenty of time to get out. People that backed the Lions had to wait right until the end. Yeah, I don't mind at referees, Brent. They get them wrong, they get them right. It's rubber the green, whatever. It's never bothered me. I've always said to people, if you're losing money and you're blaming the ref, you're picking the wrong team. I don't know. I mean, it sounds harsh, but
I 100% agree. Like I see people on forums and different places raging about referees, and it's like, mate, you place the bet. Like, you know who the teams are, you know who the referee is. Like, if you think referees are a factor, I think the jury's out on that. So yeah, I've got very little sympathy for people who blame referees.
Well, I think where I come from, I agree with what you've just said, so don't get me wrong here, but for me it's more about, I don't believe that referees are biased in any way. Yes, they are at school. I mean, I've stood on the side of the school field. I understand that. So when you go and watch their away game, you've got to win by an extra 5 to win the game. It's that kind of thing. But it's everywhere. It's not just one school. It's every school, and I understand why they do it. They all they're doing is they taking the 50-50s and they're giving it to the home team. It's really as simple as that, and it's not a problem to me. You and I stood on the side of the field, and we had a couple of bets on my kids' game about 8 years ago. Brent, you'll remember, with Brendan. That was the one we got up to 90 points or 75 or something stupid. Look, I think Australia started well. I looked at that and I thought, I've done my money here. And then obviously the Lions scored to bring it to within 5 at halftime. And they were betting -2.5. And I thought, okay, so they got to score twice. I'll go for it. If it was -3.5, I wouldn't have taken it, or 5.5, I wouldn't have taken it. It just, if it's within within 8 or 7 or 8, I'm okay, because there's always going to be a 3-point kick to try and win it if it's close. So I was okay there for the bot game. Well, that bot game, I got everything right except the bot game in that run the week before. They lost right at the end. I don't know. It's a dead rubber, and I'm not going to bet on this game. I won't bet on this game before the game. I think it's to use Mossman's sayings, for lack of a better word. This is a coin flip. The handicap is this could be they could win by 20, and of course Australia can win. It doesn't matter to the series if they win it. But after that first game loss, I was of the opinion that this is 3-0, and that price is gone. It's, at this it's 3-10 or 1-4. I'll watch a little bit and I'll get a feel and maybe have a halftime bet. But honestly, I don't have anything here because it's a dead rubber. They've already won the series. Anything can happen. I just want to say, Brent, I did hear you speaking to Mossman during the game. Sorry, during your chat earlier. Going, did you watch it? You don't remember the conversation we had a while ago? He doesn't watch the games.
But he does watch some rugby, hey Nathan?
Oh yeah. No, Test rugby I watch. I watch bits and pieces of all kinds of rugby, but I'm not watching every game. But
I wanted to say, sorry, carry on.
I was going to say.
No, I was going to say that
most tests I would see. I would see most tests.
And Oracle, I just want to say, I think the difference between Nathan and me in that sense is, if I'm not watching the game, I'm probably not having a bet on the game, because for me that is part of watching the game. Whereas Nathan will bet. You can be fast asleep, Nathan, and there's, I don't know, games taking place in Europe or whatever, and your betting strategy is the same as if you were watching it. And I mean, I think that that's more of a probably a more likely profitable long-term strategy, if I can put it that way. But Gav, yourself, are you more in my camp where it's I'm watching the game, let me have a punt, as opposed to I can't watch the game, but I'm still going to have a strike?
No, I think I was more. I've definitely changed now, not being in the industry anymore. I will watch a game without having a bet, whereas I couldn't before, and I very seldom bet on games I couldn't watch. If I couldn't see it, I didn't bet on it. I don't know. It's just something I grew up in betting with. Not grew up in life, but grew up in betting with. One other thing I was going to say, Mossman, is I agree with you with regards to your NPC comment of saying that previous stars coming back to play. So that used to be very prominent in Currie Cup. Last week we were joking around. I didn't know any of the players in the team sheets. It used to be like that now. And I also always thought that it would be good for a player to end his career where he started. And my argument at the time, and this was years ago, Stefan Tablanche, he played his first Currie Cup games at Boerland, and he never went back. And they were still in the Premier League at the time when he finished off his career, at the Sharks. And I think the nice thing to do is to go back to, especially if you've been a Springbok or in your case, an All Black, go back to the team that you started with, because that's where people found you. I don't know. I think it would be nice for Stefan Tablanche. He broke a whole lot of records. I think he broke Currie Cup records, but he should have done it at Boerland in the end and not at the Sharks. But yeah, I enjoyed the Currie Cup on the weekend. We'll chat after this game. But yeah, honestly, I've got no feeling on this game. I'm likely to only have a halftime bet here, and it'll be small.
Right. Well, before I bring Nathan in then on this game, I just want to tell you two things. One, the other reason I watch live and bet is because I've always told my wife I can influence games. So when she used to walk in and put me off, and a golfer would miss a putt, I used to actually get quite upset with her. I said, "No, he's missed a putt because you spoke to me during the putt." So if I don't watch a game live, I can't really apply that theory that I can influence games that I watch, even though there's a delay. And Nathan, what do you make of this? What do you make of the Lions game?
So that just reminded me of a story. So when I was a student and I was at university and we were watching, I think it was a cricket World Cup quarterfinal against Australia, and Chris Harris and somebody else were putting on this massive partnership, and we sat there all day watching this thing, and every time, and I don't know how it came about, but it was like every time somebody wanted to get a drink, they had to go and use a fresh glass. They couldn't use the same glass that they've got. And so by the end of the day, we had this room that was just stacked with glasses, because somehow the superstition that you needed a new glass had got in. It was just like, I don't even know how it started, but so I know what you mean when you're talking about the crazy sort of superstitions and how you think you can influence it. It was like, guys, this is what we need to do. We'll win this game. And we did win. So obviously there's a tip there for you. That's if you want to influence the game, get a fresh glass.
I mean, you even have to go just on, whether it be on Twitter or Good for the Game forum, if someone also talks on a result early, like the team are like 20 points ahead, and you say, "Oh, well done on your bet." It's like, geez, don't you? Yes, these guys get upset. They get really worked up, including, I won't say I get worked up, but I also go like, why is he making that post? Is he trying to poison the bet? And we've had a lot of arguments like that. But what are your thoughts, Nathan, then on this one? It is a dead rubber, as the Oracle has said. The Lions have not made a lot of changes or anything like that. They're obviously taking it seriously. Australia showed last week they can push them. Where's your money here, if at all?
No, it won't be. My money won't be involved in this. And I think the wildcard factor here is my understanding is the reason that points line is so low is because of weather. And that kind of changes things for me quite a lot, because it seems like an obvious over spot. Like if you got two teams that I wouldn't say don't care, but there's possible that there's guys in the Lions team that might not put the body on the line in the same way to prevent scores that you might do if it was 1-1. So yeah, it's a natural over spot. Then you've got the weather, so that's sort of suppressing that, and then that kind of, to me, throws the handicap out, because you just don't really know how the game's going to go. I think if the Lions were to kind of get down early, they might just kind of make a business decision to give up. I wouldn't say give up, but you know what I'm saying. And yeah, so I'm a bit like Oracle. I don't know how this game's going to go, if I'm honest. So yeah, I personally will be staying away.
I kind of agree with you guys, but that also at the same time, and someone made the comment, I think it was Fareed earlier, they got the wrong favourite for this game. Now, obviously, that's not the case. However, Fareed, the bet I like here, and I'll be having to go, I think Australia to win the game here. I'm not going to worry about the handicap. I'm going to go Australia to win the game. They're also just over 3-1. And that on the basis of the fact that it is something of a dead rubber. Of the two teams, who's got more to play for? Obviously, the British and Lions would love a 3-0 series victory. But I think Australia might like to not be whitewashed 3-0, even perhaps a little bit more. That's my feeling. So I think in the interest of having a bet on this game, I'm probably going to be going for Australia on the board. And just to mention the points line, yes, I've been watching the weather quite closely. It's not just that there's weather forecast, for the game, but it looks as though to me it's like weather or rain like all week in Sydney, from what I could tell before, after, during. So yeah, we're probably going to have a pretty wet game, but I certainly can't bring myself to go unders. Not for if this was the first test, yes, but not for a dead rubber there. Anything else from you, Nathan, before we move off the Lions game?
No, I actually like the thinking there. In fact, you could almost go a step further, right? Which is like, could you take Australia, minus 6.5 or something, for a kind of a jumbo payout? Because if they get up and the Lions don't care, do they run out kind of comfortable 7+ point winners? And that'd probably be paying a decent amount.
If you thought you sounded a bit like the Oracle earlier, I can tell you what, you're doing a brilliant impersonation of him right now there, Nathan.
Listen, I'm actually going to agree there, Brent. He's right. I mean, no, but honestly, in games like this, there's nothing wrong with taking -6 Australia and taking -20 Lions. This could be a blowout. We just don't know which direction it's going to be, but the value probably lies with Australia. And, I didn't consider, and I've never mind, I didn't consider now, Mossman, I've never considered the prevention of injury, because they're going to club games in a couple of months' time, and they're about to go on holiday with their families when they get back. So you're 100% right. They don't need to win this game, and they'll play, but they're not going to put their bodies on the line. They're not going to do that extra mile. And I've never thought about it from that perspective. I've always just thought, they don't care, but you've actually got motivation for them not to care, which is a new step. I've never thought of that. I will say something though on your superstitions. Like, I don't believe any of that crap. I've left the office, teams 3-0 up, 78 minutes in a soccer game, and I put the result in and went home. And I couldn't care if I was wrong or right. I'll correct it in the morning. Like, I wasn't going to be worried about it. I had a guy working for me once. The guy panicked so much, he stopped at 2 pubs on the way home to make sure the score was still the same, because I told him to put the result in. So he could go home early and not have to wait for the whole soccer match. I always had after watching the AC Milan Liverpool game, which I think was 68 minutes when they got 3-3. If they were 75 minutes and it was 3-0, I went home. I put the result in, paid the punters early, and went home. And there was a guy that worked with me, and the one day I came in a little bit earlier, and he was banging the desk with his fist. I won't mention his name. I don't know if he watches our show, but I said to him, "What's wrong?" He says, "No, you didn't win the lotto last night." And I said to him, "You didn't win the lotto and you're like upset?" He says, "Yeah, because I expected to win." I mean, I expect to win sports bets, but I don't expect to win the lotto. And I'd said something to him the day before, and I said, "Bro, like, it's 14 million to 1 or whatever it was. It's a hit and hope." But honestly, I've been told many times, you've called the game early, you're going to ruin the result. I've got no control on the field. No one has. Your glasses, I would have carried on with the same glass, and I would have been blamed if they'd lost, and I would have said, "No problem, I'll take the hit." Yeah,
you're talking about a bunch of 18-year-olds, right?
Sure.
Not saying I would do it now.
Yeah. That being said, I still blame my wife for missed putts, and I'm 52, so just keep that in mind. But
she had no control of them, and if she's watching, she'll
no,
100%. No control.
100% no control. But you know what? There's something also, and I think everybody, even those 18-year-olds, sitting there in the room, they knew deep down they weren't controlling anything. But it's a fun thing sometimes to get into as well,
Of course,
and it can become a little bit obsessive there.
But there are people that are quite serious about that, and they'll say to you like, you can't say that, or you can't really.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an easy way to get around it.
Sorry, you were making a
I'm not on
comment
Twitter,
on
so I
the
wouldn't
points.
know.
You were making a comment
guys.
on the points line of 41.5, Brent. What I will tell you is, I don't know what you've seen to be the lowest, but I've never seen a points quite lower than 34.5. And I remember the overs arriving there. And I think the bookmakers are quite scared to go. This is very low from a quoting perspective, but it's certainly not too low to make money from. And, how bad is the weather, I suppose? And I'll tell you, I've seen quotes change an hour before the game, 2 hours before the game. And that's why, as you know, Brent, when I was in the bookmaking seat, I only used to come out with this 3 hours before a game because it's a weather bet at the moment. It's got nothing to do with the teams. It's 100% a weather bet. So, yeah, if you can read the weather well, then here's your opportunity. Is it 2 hours? Is it too low? I will say if you're going under, you've got a very small band. A small range of profitability, whereas if you go overs and you're right, you're more likely to win. Sorry, you're more likely to not be in trouble. It's low enough.
Yeah,
Oracle,
it is, but I think that the other thing is that bookmakers, they're kind of loath to push a points line too low. So, the reality is that, like, you see these games, and I remember there was one, I think it was last year in the under 20, rugby championship, where the field was underwater, and the points line should probably have been 25, but they're never going to get that low.
Or
18. There is some theoretical kind of limit where they're just like, they'd be too scared to go that low, even though the reality is that, like, nobody's going to score on this field, sort of thing. So that's probably where it needs to get to before you look at the under. If you turn TV on and you see the field's underwater, but that's probably pretty unlikely.
You'll also find there's some of the bookmakers have got a range bet where they have a 0 to 26, and they have quite a price on that. So these games that are like this, instead of going under 41.5, find the 26 or 28 or 27 or whatever that number is. There's the value, because if it is crap and there's a lot of water and they don't score, there you're getting, as you said, a jumbo payout for getting it right. Because if it's 40 or it's 25, you're winning the same at the 9 to 10 or the 0.85. But you'd rather go.
You're right.
Rather go for the jumbo one.
That tends to be where bookmakers actually make mistakes, is when you have something that is like the field, something against the field, and they don't know how to price the field. And when I say the field, I'm talking about where it's over something, and they're trying to use a bucket as a catch-all where everything else falls into it that they don't know how to price, and they get those wrong, quite frequently. And I remember one back in my London days where it was Australia against Fiji in a rugby game, and they priced all the points bands, the handicap bands up to 50, and then obviously got bored and just said can't be bothered. And said anything,
plus,
and then it was like 50 plus. It was like 100 to 1 or something. Like, it was just miles off. But
it's an algorithm.
So they just got lazy.
Not actually typing a number in. It's just an algorithm. And
so they just got lazy and priced that bucket at 100 to 1. And that game, it came down to the 79th minute, and Aussie scored and needed a conversion to go over the 50. And I can't remember. It was it Elton Flatley or someone missed that conversion on 100 to 1 bet. It will stay in my memory for a long time.
You never forget the big lose. Winners had the big. No. You didn't lose a lot of money, but the potential big wins that
not winning.
You missed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you remember those.
My wife for years, Brent. I said to her, not winning is definitely different to losing.
You remember my golf bet last year, Gab? I won't go into the detail now, but I had $50 on to win 210,000. It was 8,000 and something to 1. And I mean, the guy was leading by a shot with a few holes, not a few holes to play, with 14 holes to play. And he ended up absolutely blown up. But we won't talk about that any longer.
No, hold on.
Nathan?
Do you know what I remember most about that particular bet? Should I tell my wife or not? Is what I remember.
Yeah. I don't remember that at all. All I remember is my wife walking in when he hooked it into the water. So I actually blame her for the loss.
Of course it was her fault.
But anyways, listen, Gav, you and I are going to talk a bit of Currie Cup now. I know that, Nathan, you don't follow the Currie Cup, so I won't force you to sit through that. But thanks a lot for coming on the show, man.
I have a question for
yeah,
you. Can you
bet
on the Currie Cup in New Zealand?
Can you?
Is it available?
Gosh, that's a good question. I can find out. Just give me a second. I'll have a quick look. I suspect that you can. I think most of these
very low limits, obviously.
Yeah, but Currie Cup. Oh, yep.
Right,
yeah,
Brent, what's the first game? Stick it up.
So there you go. I've got just one game up. Cheetahs, Pumas -0.5.
Exactly what, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So,
all right. So, yeah. So the short answer is you could bet it.
Yeah. And as you say, though, Gav, liquidity, I'm sure on Nathan's side would be low. Quite frankly, liquidity on the Currie Cup for us here in South Africa is pretty low as well. Our bookmakers are very, very afraid of the competition. But Nathan, great to have you back on, man. You look well rested, and look forward to having you on again soon. And I hope you have a good weekend's punting.
Nice one. Thanks, guys. Good to see you again.
Cheers.
Excellent. Thanks to Nathan, the Mossman, coming to us there from Auckland in New Zealand. And that leaves me now alone with Oracle. And Oracle, we got Cheetahs. They lost to Boerland in the 88th minute last week. Actually, the only game it's a game that stopped me getting a full house on the Currie Cup. I wasn't betting big, but in this particular game, I had Cheetahs 1-12 at 18-10, and they were leading when the hooter sounded. And 8 minutes later, the Cavaliers were scoring a try to win the game. Brilliant win, and I mean, I must admit, absolutely thrilling finish to watch. We've got an interesting one here, though. I got this one wrong with my handicaps. I went -5.5 Cheetahs, which they then went +3.5. But I've sensed a bit of money now coming for the home team to the point that we've effectively got a choice game here. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I will first speak about Sunday's game. A couple of things from that. I did point out to my wife where we sat on this grandstand to watch that Sharks Stormers game from 2001. I see the Lions are playing next weekend there. I shall be in attendance. I've already told my son we're donning our Lions jerseys. We're going to go out to watch at Wellington. I like the stadium. I like the town. I'm looking forward to that. I was very impressed with how they started the game. They walked into that game thinking, if we're going to win this, we're going to have a proper go in the beginning. And I knew that the strength for the Cheetahs was on the bench. They got up to 13-0. They kicked 2 kicks, which obviously put pressure on the Cheetahs to have to go for a try. They got up to 13-0. And then it was 14-0 to the Cheetahs, scoring 2 quick-fire tries, one which was a bit of a fluke. And, I'd backed the minus there. I backed the Cheetahs to win the game. And I got to a point where I realized the Cheetahs couldn't win. And I was shouting for the Cavaliers from a purely spectator perspective.
Yeah, the money
11 couldn't.
The money's been written off, and then you support the other team. Yeah. In fact, almost part of it. I agree. Yeah. You want to see the other team win, but also part of it's almost to spite the bloody team you backed. Or stuff, you guys. You can't beat the handicap. Now you must lose the game.
I think it was more about me because I'd got that wrong. I called it wrong, and I didn't back them, so I can't claim I picked that. But I was impressed of how they finished it. And what was really impressive to me is they kept the ball for 9 minutes, and that is impressive. Yes, there were a couple of penalty advantages there, but they still kept the ball. There was no dropping of the ball. There was no stupid kicks up the field. They worked it. It took them 9 minutes, and they got there and they won the game. And, when the crowd came on the field, I remember I was a security guard at the Wanderers when I was 16 years old, and my job was to grab the wickets before the crowd did. In those days, the crowd used to storm the field, and apparently it still happens in Wellington. You can't storm the field in other games, so you don't see that in anywhere else for that matter. Certainly not after the full-time whistle. There's still quite a lot of time before the crowd gets onto the field. But yeah, I was very impressed. They could have drawn the game. They still went for the win. I agree. It was good. I'm going to tell you that in this Cheetahs didn't impress me. The bench came on. They had about 15 minutes of, reasonable performance. But Wellington kept their way about them, even when they went down at one point. I think the Pumas definitely impressed me last week. They looked a little average in the beginning. I mean, they started okay, but they didn't look like they were going to fire away. And that was also a bet I lost, the Pumas game. And I went for the Griquas, and I was impressed with this Pumas team, and I think the Pumas win this game. I think they had the wrong favorite early on, and in this case, I think you're getting value here. I really do. I think Pumas should probably be -3 or -5. I can't put a minus next to the Cheetahs. I got nothing from them. Their bench were mediocre. Yes, they scored a couple of tries, but wasn't good enough for me. And I think the Cheetahs get beaten here, and I don't know why it was so bad. Maybe they need another week or two to get in, but I like the Pumas here. I think the values of the Pumas. And you know what?
Right.
If you said to me, sorry, one more thing. If you said to me Pumas are -5, I would have taken them as well.
Well, he did show me this ticket. He lost out on a massive multiple last week, so he's all over the Pumas. Gavin likes the Pumas here. Just to mention, so we got a Currie Cup blog. As is how I went. I almost got the 100% last week, but certainly a lot of luck involved. I don't know many of the teams that yet, getting to know them. But we've got the current betting up there. We do betting updates and also the weather updates. And I can tell you, this looks like about 8 degrees Celsius tomorrow. It's not cloudy, it's cloudy. The C on my keyboard's not working too well. And pretty dry with humidity very low. So there could also be points. But of course, the bookies are going to be onto that. And we know Goodart going to get a points line probably around, I'm guessing, about 64 for this one. It's going to be pretty high. We unfortunately don't have any points lines now, though. Gav, let's move on to the next one. Lions -18.5 against Western Province's handicap has been fairly stable most of the week, from what I can tell. It's a big cap, but I was very impressed with the Lions last week. They put the Sharks away, whereas Western Province were well beaten by the Bulls.
Yeah, so loudy but dry might also be accurate as well.
Yes, could be.
Yeah, the Lions can win the spot 30-40. This is a minus all the way. I don't need to say much. I think people that watched this Lions team last week, good enough. They played properly. They didn't mess around. Western Province were rubbish. Capital R, capital U, capital B, and all the rest of the letters capitals. They were rubbish. I don't know what's going on there. The Bulls actually, I mean, they won comfortably, and I said they would win comfortably. But when I saw the result at the end, I thought, I think they left 20 points on the field. The Lions can put this team away by, I don't know, 50, whatever. Take a big minus here. You won't be sorry. This is race over. This is rubbish, this Western Province team. Here we go.
Well, talking of big handicaps, because last week, Gavin, do you know the Bulls opened +5.5 against Province?
Yeah,
we said. I think the first person I saw, we went for the Bulls on the show, but I think even earlier when the handicap was 5.5, I think it was Henrik. Maybe I saw on X or something, came out straight away and said, no, the Bulls are going to win. I think he said it on the show as well. Yeah. I mean, I was also on the Bulls here to win. I got 9-10 by the time I got on. By then they were already favourites. But here we got we got the reverse fixture here. We got the Lions up against Province, who got a hiding from the Bulls. And then the Sharks, who got a hiding for the Lions. Now I have to travel to Loftus to play the Bulls. And this handicap, there was sort of -18.5 early in the week, -19.5. It's now up to 22.5. And the question, Gavin, is it big enough?
Week 2, Brent, 10 years ago, you never saw -22.
Certainly not these sides playing each other.
Oh, no, it's uncharted territory, this. I don't know. Jan Estes and 40, of course, it can happen. Sharks are so bad, Brent? They were so bad. I'm going to tell you it's minus or no bet. If you're not prepared to press that -22 button, don't have a bet. But you cannot go the other way. For me, it's no bet on the Sharks ever in this fixture. This is Bulls minus or no bet, and I haven't made a decision yet. But I'm definitely not back in the Sharks.
Well, I could just give you the weather on the two let's call it the Gauteng games. Both beautiful weather, temperature in the mid-teens. The difference, of course, the Lions game is at 3 in the afternoon, so there won't be any dew factor or anything like that.
Yeah.
The Bulls game is a little bit late at 5 o'clock, but still, it's going to be perfect conditions. Yeah, I think that minus 22.5 could be the way to go, and certainly be mulling over something like that potentially for the newsletter as well. So I think that's solid advice. It definitely couldn't be back in the Sharks.
Yeah, do not touch this. If you're not sure, don't touch the Sharks. If you've got anything, it's minus or no bet. And listen, I've said this many times on the show. Plus or no bet, minus or no bet. You've got to do that at some point. You can't go. Because if this goes 26, I'm still not back in the Sharks. I don't know. It's you've got to have that that arrow in your armor, your bullets in your armor. In your arsenal. Sorry, you've got to be able to say, I'm not going to do this. Sorry, I'm just letting my vacuum cleaner under the board here, which stops the dog. It's getting stuck.
And Sunday's game, Gavin. Sunday's game should be. I mean, by all accounts, I'm expecting a points line here of about 69.5, 70 for this game. Conditions look like they're going to be great. Griquas up against the Cavaliers, and here we've had a bit of movement Griquas way, minus 6.5 through to minus 8.5.
Sorry, Brent, I'm just moving this board. The machine can get through. I'm going Cavaliers here. They still got enough energy. This is a big enough handicap. Griquas were poor against Pumas. I'm going to say 50% it was Pumas were very good, and the other 50% never backed the Sharks. So sometimes you have to, but not at the moment.
Blake reckons never.
Never, no. I've backed them before, and I've been okay, but I know we're not to. Yeah, for me, I'm all over Boerland here. I think they're getting very generous, giving them plus 8.5 against a team that were very poor as well. I mean, let's do it this way. If last week hadn't happened yet, the Sharks would have been minus 10 against Griquas, maybe minus 8. I don't know. I say that's a choice game at the moment. If the Griquas had to play the Sharks tomorrow at Loftus, it's a choice game. I'm going. The values with the Cavaliers here. Take them on the board and take them at the plus. But they can win this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win it. I'm not going to say they're the wrong favourites, but I certainly think this is a closer to zero game than what has been quoted to me at the moment. I think this is
Yeah, and I'm leaning towards Fareed on this one. I actually quite like Griquas. I just got a feeling that this season you're going to find the Cavaliers are a side that performs in front of their home crowd and potentially not as well on the road. Of course, we'll see if that's the case in Kimberley on Sunday. But I'm leaning the other way there, leaning Griquas on the minus. Fareed says Boerland will probably not win a game this year.
I think I'm smelling a bet with you, Brent, because I actually quite like this, and I'm going to suggest this is probably my bet of the week.
So what sort of bet are you smelling with me there?
Oh, yes, we can do an even 8. We can an even 8. We can do an even 500 at let's go 8.
8 Tano bet. Tano bet, 100%. A little bit of friendly gambling.
Happy?
Happy with that. It's on tape. Gav, that brings us to the end then. What are your sort of best plays for the weekend?
I like
betting
wise. I'm going to say Lions second. Pumas probably third, and I don't know what to do with that Bulls game at the moment, but I'm definitely not going Sharks. Yeah, I got three here. I will say that I was quite impressed with the confidence of Mossman on this Manawatu game in the morning. And I actually forgot to ask him tomorrow if he is still listening. Are there not 7 games every week? Because the way I understood it was 3 premiership matches, 3 first division matches, and then a crossover match each week. I always remembered.
But there was already a game this morning, Gavin. There was already a game this morning, eh? That's why there's only 6 left. Because there's 7. There was a game this morning. For Griquas by 15 plus is for Reader. Let's have a look at your weekly treble. Australia plus 8.5. Bulls minus 22.5. Griquas minus 7.5. Johan, I'm prepared to rubber stamp that right now and join you there on the 11-2. Fareed likes the Bulls, Griquas, and Taranaki. And that brings us to the end of
I'm
it.
going to tell you, Hun, and this is something that you're going to quite like, because I remember battling with Super Rugby. I used to battle to get 7 in a row or 6 in a row on the weekend. And the one day I took the opposite bet as well. So I took my bet, and my opposite bet won. I got all of them wrong. So I'm going to suggest to you, Hun, you want to go. Oh, I suppose you can't with the Sharks. Sorry, scratch that. Take the double. Lions minus and Boyland plus. Just take a cover double. The Bulls will win, or otherwise just take the double and leave the Bulls out.
That's confident punting for you, taking the opposite bet heading into the weekend. Anyways, gents, that brings us to the end of the show.
Yeah, when it wins, you'll be unhappy, but your wallet will be happy.
Exactly. But Gav, thanks, Slacker, to chat with you, man. What are your plans tomorrow? Out and about in the morning, doing a bit of business, and then beer in the afternoon, I would imagine.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be a long day tomorrow. My wife said I'm picking up the takeaway because I'm going to be home earlier than she is. She's going to be home at 5. I've got a belter of a day tomorrow. I don't think I'll be back before 6, and I'm leaving quite early. But it's good. This business I got involved in it's breaking records, and it's keeping me on my toes. I'm loving it, and I certainly will be back for the 7 o'clock rugby game. Very happy.
No doubt.
But I'm looking forward to Saturday. Saturday is good weather here. I'm going to Braai again, and I'm looking forward to going to watch the Bullhunt game next week. So I might even do a little live video to you to show you that I'm there. Have you ever been to that stadium?
No, I've never.
You can hear the tackles. You can hear them better than a school game. And the pole game on Saturday, I'm going to try and watch that if I can. I'm not going to go to. They're selling the tickets for 160 Rand. I was doing the maths, and at 30,000, that's basically 500,000 Rand. They're going to generate 500,000 Rand from a schoolboy game. That's crazy, and that's without the TV rights. I don't know what that's worth, but can you imagine getting 500,000 Rand from a school game?
For a school game, that's unbelievable. But anyway, Gav, thanks very much, man. Thanks to the boys on the live chat. Let's hope this stays up. I'm not even going to mention the name of the platform, but let's hope it stays up. But if not, we've obviously got X at Brent Graham and also the Facebook link as well. All going well. We'll be back on the same platforms next week. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the weekend. We'll see you next week, Thursday, 9 o'clock.